Hi, this is Peggy from Raw. So today our guest is Amir TAJKARIMI, who is the co-founder and CEO of Lexop. So thank you so much, Amir, for being with us.
Thank
So
you for having me.
Lexop is changing the collection process, and it's definitely something that was due for a change. Can you tell us a bit more about your business model?
Sure. So Lexop, we're a Montreal-based, venture-backed fintech, and our mission is to make collections more humane, but through technology. So the past 50, 60, 70 years, as soon as you were late on an invoice, what would happen? They would say, sorry, Peggy, we're gonna have to transfer you to collections.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you are treated as if you have leprosy. So the experience of a past due customer is very different than a current customer who's up to date with their payments. And that's what we're trying to change, but through technology. When you're late on a payment, people don't even want to talk on the phone. People are less receptive to letter mail sent at home. So what we're trying to do at Lexop is to help consumers pay their bills through a digital approach and flexible approach, all with their phone. But we do it by selling our software to bigger companies like telcos, financial institutions, utilities. So by ricochet, everybody benefits from it. The consumer, the bigger company, and we are the middleman software that helps both parties pay and get paid.
That's wonderful. Thank you for the explanation. And obviously, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of connection points with what you're doing and the situation where we're living now. So,
yeah.
So let's get started. So
sure.
From your perspective, what are some of the massive lasting impacts that COVID will have on the financial services industry?
COVID has and will have a major cause a major economic downturn. Mm-hmm. And this will negatively affect the capacity of Canadian households and businesses to pay their accounts on time. So there's going to be a huge backlog of account receivables that will be generated, and collection will become a crucial focus. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's this huge gap between how people in these companies are collecting on these receivables. Mm-hmm. The traditional tactics of calling and being intrusive and being rigid will not work anymore because COVID has changed how employees within financial institutions work. So the new normal will be a mix of digital workflow and flexibility in order to handle the financial burden caused by COVID. Mm-hmm. That's the big picture.
No, thank you. That's very insightful. My second question, which actually might be pretty much linked to that, do you see regulations or some policies changing in the light of COVID? Obviously, I'm thinking about what you're doing. I'm against FICO score. I think it's a stupid way of assessing, credit worthiness. I just don't get it. Is it something that you think will change? What do you see changing?
I think there will be some regulation in terms of easing the rigidity of data points. So right now, if you want to assess someone, there's only just a few ways, traditional way that you can do it, as you mentioned, the FICO score. But I think there will be some other ways to assess the financial burden of someone through their other habits or payment habits that already exist, but to make it more widespread and acknowledged and accepted. I think that will come into play. And I also think there will be just a traditional change of landscape in terms of regulation for acts that have always been done in person. For example, account opening. I used to be at a legal counsel at National Bank, and I remember we used to make people from agricultural business people, like rural areas, like far from downtown areas. We used to make them come all the way to a branch in order to sign an account opening for a loan. And that can also have a burden. So changing those regulations can have a big effect in terms of disbursing loans more rapidly to people, even if they're not located next to a branch, especially with COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And if we take a step back and we take more of a global approach, an economic approach, what impact do you see COVID have on the global financial order stability? You mentioned obviously huge downturn.
debt will increase. The level of household debt will increase dramatically. Right now, people have been, the past 4 months, it's actually weird because people have been able to pay their minimum accounts just because there's a federal aid, but that will end at one point and household debt will increase dramatically. And there was a recent study by our friends at TransUnion that had said that 56% of all Canadian consumers indicated that their household income has been negatively affected. And on average, they expect to be short by $922 when paying their bills. So in other words, they feel like they're going to be at 7.4 weeks close to financial hardship.
Okay.
On average. So basically everybody thinks that within 2 months, they will be in trouble. And that's what I think the main impact will be.
Yeah. Well, I guess for you being in the collection business and making it more human, there is an urgency for your clients and for the ones who are not your clients yet to jump on that problematic, because I agree it's going to be widespread. And
absolutely.
It makes me think about the financial crisis where people continue moving along as if nothing was happening until they really see Lehman's fall.
Absolutely.
And I see the same thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw it during COVID, and for us, COVID, I know it's very mean to say, but business-wise, opportunity was good for Lexop because big clients that I was running after for 6 months, all of a sudden came back to us and said, Amir, we need automation to handle these receivables. And Lexop is an opportunity for us to at least automate as much as possible through technology, through flexibility. And then the accounts that are really complex, our agents can focus on those.
Exactly.
Because the current agents, you don't have the workforce required to handle all that receivable, all that backlog. So that's where there is an opportunity within this downturn.
Oh, definitely. There is no reason why not to make a crisis an opportunity. It doesn't change the situation. You didn't create the virus, so
no, it's true. We didn't.
So in terms of competitive positioning, what type of organization in the financial services industry do you think will benefit from the crisis? Obviously, you're one of them, but what DNA maybe?
Well, right now, a lot of software companies have benefited from this situation, this remote necessity. And I think the companies that will prone a digital first approach are the ones that are going to come out of this winners. I don't have any specific examples for you, but I feel like the ones that are going to focus on easing this burden of being remote are the ones that are going to come out of this winners.
Yeah, I have a question for you, almost a trick question. What do you think in terms of cybersecurity? I've been more and more concerned by, the rise of cyber attacks and what's happening as we're opening, obviously, all this, clients are remote, employees are remote, and more vulnerability points with working with more provider. At the same time, early stage companies like yours, it creates terrible cost burden to be bank grades, especially if the bank increase that. Do you have any perspective? How do you approach cyber at your company?
I consider it as a necessary evil. Especially in our end, if we target mid-market to enterprise, so we have to be on par with the requirements that these companies have. And yes, it requires a lot of resources, both financially and human-wise, employees, to be bank grade, to have bank grade security, for example. But it's absolutely required. I don't think there's especially nowadays, in a startup, we have administrators, we have fiduciary duty towards the company and our clients. So if we drop the ball even a little bit in terms of cyber, or if we were a little bit negligent, it could be very costly for everyone. So I consider it as a necessary evil. We have to go through it. And if you want to penetrate that market, which is enterprise, You have to be up to par. You have to be rigorous. You have to be meticulous in terms of security. That's just how it is. It's non-negotiable.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much. So in terms of transformation, where do you see the traditional FI, and you work with some of them, or do you see them moving forward? You talk about automation. I guess that's one of the topic of conversation you have with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to work at a bank, legal counsel, and I remember they just implementing a digital signature solution for customers was this big thing. They're like, oh, fraud, or what if somebody else hacks into the computer and signs for the person? And I used to be always shocked. I'm like, do you really believe that nobody can forge a written signature that we currently have?
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to fraud, a written signature by hand. So just that mentality of people recognizing, no, tech is good. Tech is always brings us to the next level. It's going to be, there will be some vulnerabilities, but we will address it the same way we have been addressing very manual stuff for decades, and we've been accepting it. So financial institutions, although they are improving, they definitely need to just have a little bit of more courage in terms of their decision making and go forward, because that's why all these fintechs are coming along with a little bit more agile and gutsy attitude, and taking customer base away from these bigger financial institutions. So I just feel like they should have a little bit more edge and willpower to go forward with tech initiatives.
Yeah, and if not now, when?
Absolutely.
I think they're
Absolutely.
forced, to do that, even if it's really not in their DNA. So last question, which is
Sure.
the lightest question of the 6 questions we're going through. So in terms of your own digital transformation or your own transformation, I'm not sure if you digitally transform, but what did you pick up in the last few months in terms of good habits, bad habits, maybe?
So I used to be religiously against remote working, and it's not. I didn't like it. I believe that it wouldn't work, or that we would lose effectiveness. But I was pleasantly surprised. I remember we had to go remote for Lexop, obviously during COVID. Obviously, there was some adjustments that we had to do to make the remote work more efficient. But I realized that a lot can be done if the correct tools are in place, so that everybody is up to date, everybody can communicate, and everybody can know what their milestones are. Do I think it's the best way to build culture especially for a young company? No. If you're Shopify and you've already have your culture ingrained and you have 3,000 people, yes, full remote work works.
Yeah.
But for a young company like us, we're seeds, Series A, we're still building that foundation. We're still learning to work with each other. Complete remote work, I believe it's hard. I believe it just makes it difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it just makes it more difficult, especially in terms of culture. Yeah. But in terms of work getting done, no problem.
Okay. And for the culture, the aspect as well, and like I'm probably a few years older than you, but I remember learning a lot from my bosses, and a lot of what you learn is also this very soft skills where
absolutely,
they give you the translation
that's
of,
true.
okay, when that guy said that, that's what he meant.
Absolutely.
And working from home makes that makes it impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
So
there's certain things that you detect just by seeing someone, their reaction, how they act. Or I often say it, I'm like, you do Zoom meetings for specific subjects, for a specific issue, and then that Zoom meeting ends, and then you don't interact anymore. Whereas when you're together in an office, you interact all the time. Not for a specific subject all the time. It could be for anything, just to exchange ideas, just to, you hear something, you're like, hey, no, Peggy, wait, I heard that.
Yeah.
So these little things, these soft skills, these interconnected personal aspects of working together that I feel that it's hard to replicate in a remote environment.
So are you going to piggyback on what you are saying? So are you going to put more flexibility now, meaning once in a while people working from, but still going back to this in person, you know, to
Yeah,
marry both
absolutely.
sides of the equation.
Yeah, and I believe the future of work is hybrid, right?
Yeah.
We'll have office will be a place you get together, some important meetings, for example, tomorrow is the Founder Fuel demo day, whereas everybody's going to come at the office and we're going to be watching it together, the different demos, just for that 1 hour to bring that culture together again. But there are a few days that we're going to be working from home during the week. So I think the hybrid model is going to be working well for us.
I agree. Well, Amir, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
Grabbing the opportunity, and wishing you a lot of luck with capturing a lot of market share and helping clients and companies manage this situation in a more human way.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Thanks for the opportunity.
Have a good day. That was great to have you. Thank you. Bye.